good dawn to all you guys. Are we having fun? I've been sitting in that anxious state for the weekend. And you know what? I'm going to continue to work on that vernacular. I haven't really spent enough time talking about, the weak versus the strong, because a lot of guys are just like the strong end, right? So that way they're not invoking weakness. And that's good. Also, we gotta be absolutely certain of the etymology, because it's excellent, absolutely excellent to be aware of puns and to ask ourselves in what context. Because what if the thing is that what if the word weak is the wrong word, right? Like, what if being not strong shouldn't be the word weak, and that we are supposed to have a weak, unless, right? Those are interesting questions. Those are all little Saturnian musings, one could say, as you're trying to comprehend the principles of the time calendar in which the general public regulates its work rhythm, right? And that's all we're talking about. Talking about a calendar scheduling for a work rhythm for people living in the environments that they live in. The rest is getting into the details of whether you're functioning on the inversion or not. Should there be 7 days in the course of a set of days that is less than the moon cycle of the month? Right? Today, it's not particularly a new moon. It's not particularly a full moon. I didn't look at an astrology chart and make a decision today. I just had to go with circumstances, the timing beset by others in front of me, and make a decision by that time. Right? And so, although it may not matter, I kind of want to say it first, and maybe that matters in a bad way, right? But I'm effectively quitting my job that you've watched me develop through for 3 years. I'm not going to be leaving them. I've been this season hit different. This season hit different. I'm different. It was different before the eclipse even. So this is not even like different because of the eclipse. But most of this has happened where it's reflected on my performance at work in the last period of time. I was going through a lot, and by and large, none of it, I don't think I missed a day of work over any of it, right? But it was a couple days of work where I was in my head, consciously in my head. It's like, gotta get past all this. I'm fucking frustrated about this. It's distracting me from work. And, I had some rough days and all that stuff. And, that reflects poorly, and I am seen less so. And, it puts an unspoken downturn in your status. And, that happens to everybody, and my attitude was, because it's not like I hadn't been like kind of screwed up before and then built myself back up and yada yada yada. But now I feel like I'm at that point in the job where they don't want to tell me they'd rather not have me, so they start throwing slightly unreasonable things at you. And these tests are something or another, right? So I failed one of those tests, and I was spoken to very poorly as the reason I failed that test. And that became a report that set everything into motion. And so I've now sat here with this lost time that I've had over this weekend to tell myself, you know what? It's the beginning of another one of these work schedule cycles. One of these 7 cycles that we insist that we function on. It is an excellent time to be in a state of changing gears. If we're going to honor the moon on this day, then we honor our thoughts and emotions on this day. You put your mind in the right space to go to work, and I don't have the heart space in my mind anymore for this job, and so I'm stepping off into an unknown territory because I may be fired either way. So I'm just gonna go with it because it's better that I hit a decision hard. Maybe the only other thing I would say is if they said, like, if you want to come back again in the winter, but I think you need to take the rest of the year off. But if you want to come back for Christmas, if they tell me something like that, I'll say, I'll call you if I need that. Because I could probably handle that. Because I would be barely working with live plants, and it's far less, frustrating for everything. And also, I would just be a physical aid. I wouldn't need to care about too many fucking responsibilities, because here I am, just here for the thing. But I don't know. I doubt that. I don't think. Typically, it's always my delusion as to how good I am doing to other people, right? My delusions are what got me into the situation that I pulled myself out of. Right? Just like I was in a delusion. Oh my god, I'm in a delusion, and I picked up a handful. I noticed a handful of patterns again, and I needed to not just see the I needed to fucking see the pattern 2 or 3 times. So, which means I had to see it happen 4 to 6 times, right? Like I had to see a pattern emerge and experience the pattern, and then say, shit, okay, I see this pattern, but maybe I can do it differently to still, and then I don't have to work on this fucking, right? And this is a natural part of shadow work, is learning from avoiding the shadow work and going back into the fucking cycles. And I think most people fucking kind of struggle with the recycling of the issue like that. And all of these issues are like, they're all secondary, right? It's all just issues of, do you understand other people or not? And a deep part of me is not understanding other people. Yet, somehow I do understand people. It's just very hard to get people to listen to you, and well, it's not very hard to get people to listen to you, right? But if your path is to be listened to, but never to appeal to what other people want to hear, that's where you have to work very hard on your performance, in your charisma, and your choice of words and everything else. And it's okay to walk away when something doesn't work anymore, right? Because, you know, eventually you'll figure out, okay, I am operating a level of difference from other people they can't handle very well. One of the biggest things that I have to do is that when I'm like, there's the one thing where I'm talking to the ethers. I'm talking to the ethers. I'm on, like, I'm giving you my top level, right? So therefore, it's reaching out for top level. Thus, less than 300 subs after doing this for so long. I am an acquired taste, and you have to fucking invest time to listen. It's just the way it is. I'm not Mr. Short Form. But in person, I can only show you the door to the level just above where you're at. That's all I can fucking do is show you, hey, here's the door to level 2. There's level 2. It sounds like you want level 2. I didn't know if you knew there was a level 2. There's level 2. And that's my job. That's my job. You know, as far as basic shit between the higher force and myself, and whatever basic things. I don't even want to say that's my fucking mission. That's my mission in the sense that that's everybody's mission, which is why everybody's all about it when they're conscious, right? But that has to be fucking, it has to be fucking scaled down to something for where you are at versus where they are at, right? And then you have a place where you throw all the big shit out there, and then you have a place that is for the interested, right? Because they're going to need lots and lots of primers. This is why we have mystery schools, because it releases proper knowledge and wisdom in correct order, so therefore you don't fucking lose your mind not understanding core principles. You know, people don't understand core principles about mathematics, and thus they listen to Terrence Howard. It took me a minute to realize that he was completely just fucking with language, and that's all the fuck he was doing. He was making you think that he was changing the definition of time of times one or whatever. You know, he's changing the definition of multiplication table, thus followed by a number, which changes the meaning of the number, and you're not fucking realizing that the number goes into the symbolic about the prior, right? That's the difference with multiplication and division, right? He's he's completely changing the fucking meaning of the fucking. He's trying to keep the meaning of number itself, regardless of the language construct of whether you threw an X or a divider symbol. Right? So proper knowledge and wisdom, some of that is bullshit you did learn in school. From the portion of fucking reality that did not get absolutely fucked with yet. But because people don't even know what the meaning and purpose of numerology is, they have no fucking way of stopping and fucking looking at it. They don't even know the right fucking questions to ask. And everybody is just hungry for the next fucking, like, conspiracy theory. Why? Because all of our fictional storytellers suck. Which is why we're going to have Tom Althouse on, because he's an amazing storyteller who writes. And you're not seeing the story, because one thing that can be really fucking amazing and perfect about films is that it can give you an authentic demonstration of a hard concept through all of the props, persons, places, and actors involved, right? And it gives you full context to be like, oh, that's why it can't work any other way, etc., etc. Or why this way works terribly, or whatever, right? To see it followed through. And then you could fucking repeat that like a fucking scientific experiment at home, right? And then that is enveloped in a larger story about consequences, where it's a pivotal point in a plot where people die, right? It's all about the stakes to hold the interest, to make you remember of such a scene of significance. But we have thrown our need to go into these things. This is all coming from people that they're satisfied with their level of formal education, and now they're going through with their lives, and they just want their permission to talk like imbeciles, right? And that's how we say it, looking the outside in, that we think that they're imbeciles that just need the right to talk, right? It's just that it gets this huge platform, so you can have this massive amount of people roped into your conversation, right? It can be a little irritating, right? It's just the irritate. Listen, it's not making things worse. It's just revealing how they are. All right? It's just revealing how they are. We don't like it because we know what the cabal thinks. Because here you are, people that are just like you and me, but they're nothing like you and me, because you know that you've done everything to not be a worthless mouth breather, right? This whole thing, not because of those fucking good and evil people, but just because in your heart you're just like, I really need to take care of myself and be able to step up and take care of others around me. That's absolute basics. Absolute basics if you're not even gonna fucking bother to fight big evil. That's just absolute basics, so the other fucking people can fight in a world that has a rational base in its timeline. let's see here. So, so you just have to admit, like people are incongruent. Like, that's just a social dynamic. That's a bunch of people that just like having that kind of conversation. They're building friendships off of it or whatever. It's not even about the imbecilism that they look like and sound like. It's about, like, who likes talking about this conversation, speculating on it for a long time, and this, that, and the other thing. So it's not even going to latch on. And a lot of people, I mean, you can spend just enough time, right? And like talking about how the motherfucker's fucking doesn't have real credentials. He's, all of his credentials are like honorary fucking degrees and shit. None of his patents, all of his patents are basically submissions that, like, that sit there in documentation or whatever, but they're not patents that have ever been, they're actually, I'm sorry, no, they're patents that people have tried to validate. There's been a handful of people that have bothered with the fucking investment. Hi, Natalie McCoy and Susie Q. How you doing? I saw you there. I with all the glare in my thought, I was driving. I didn't want to distract myself. See, I'm very good at not distracting myself. A second. Angle that. There we go. So, so you're in this frustrating juxtaposition of seeing that you're on the same level as like the Satanist who looks at the people called the dead, right? And you're now staring at them, and you hate yourself because you see them through those eyes, and deep down it's just like, I can never accept this because I will never be one of them. That is not what defines them. All right? We think we need we need to be on the righteous path, that we need to follow our literary gospel understanding of Jesus in many respects, which involves just the being out there and just preaching the gospel, right? You're just fucking preaching the gospel, right? Don't fucking preach the gospel. Don't be fucking tricked into thinking that, Jesus did the right thing, and that's why they fucking hung him, and so you're willing to get fucking crucified because you've got the strength of your authentic, truth, and you've got a great relationship with God. The people don't care about your relationship with God, and God does not want you to do what you're supposed to do that way, right? Because you're not here to lesser yourself before the higher force. That's not what you're here to do. And the Jesus model is about lessening yourself. You lessen yourself, and then you get devoured alive because you've abandoned all manner of self-defense principle to where there are words you can't even say to give yourself the psychic charge to stop the mob from destroying you. And the 20th century has taught us anything, um, is that martyrs don't matter. You know, we're in various perversions and inversions of the ideals of Martin Luther King. There are problems with the whole of the ideals of Martin Luther King, which is something that you don't zoom in on. And then, of course, like every living man, it never works when you're. This is why martyrdom doesn't work, because there is no living man that will ever be a embodiment of a god. Not even a fucking shaman wearing his mask in the Odin state or whatever, who's fucking Odining out right in fucking front of you and is legitimately Odining out. That's still not even fucking close to anything that matters on a martyrdom level. It's the belief that this is God made flesh, because God made flesh is a fantasy, which is why the gospel doesn't talk about, you know, what is the proper sacrament of taking a shit? How come Jesus never takes a shit in the Bible? Like, why don't they go to the bathroom on the Starship Enterprise? Because no story happens in the fucking bathroom. It's not a fucking historical document. It's not giving you the context of his life. It focuses in on him as a teacher. Okay? Would you like to focus in on the life of Jeffrey Epstein as a successful person in whatever fucking business he was doing? No, nobody gives a shit about his successful fucking business. Nobody gives two shits. The only thing that matters is the horrible things that he did as a real person, right? If Jeffrey Epstein was a figment of our imagination, the only thing we would fucking care about is the story we were given in its context about all of the great things that he did. So, Jesus was a living man who convinced a whole lot of people that his life was the way. And they edited out all of his life except for what happens in the gospel. And you're like, perfect, great, we're good. You know? 30 some odd years, who gives a fuck? Who gives a fuck? He was in hiding, remember? They wanted to cut his head off. He was in hiding. It makes perfect sense. That's it. That's all they need. They just need the rationalization within the book. And not a single one of them will go petition the Vatican archives and hold up a petition of the Vatican archives. So yeah, what's my point? My point is, it's the same thing with me and my job right here. Most of the details of my personal life are to be kept, you know, a little mysterious. Privacy. There's not a tremendous amount of things at my job that I talk about. I give them hints and things like that, especially, you know, if I'm in the process of screwing up. You know, I would be so inclined, based on the level of relationship I've built, to share with the amount of context I feel safe sharing, all that kind of stuff. Because you can't, like, I got too much on my mind that is not on anybody else's mind. And that's a big thing I try to explain. It's like, you know, I do a lot of deep dives on stuff, it's all too academic. It's not good conversation. That's basically how I talk to people, right? You know, we all know that people are going to react in polite manners when you say just things like that. And so you still have to really, like, man, how do I talk on this level, right? You know, so you let them know thing by thing, right? Because you know, part of it is attached to, like, you talking about things that just don't make sense, and you know, you've only got so much of your own life. And even here, I have trouble explaining this to you because of the same kind of relationship. I have to be a little bit more careful with this because this is an open public portal into my world. And we're not to be fucking terrified of showing everybody our fucking surroundings where like that, you know, because like a lot of people watch The Good Shepherd with Matt Damon about the CIA, and they looked at the fucking guy looking at the fucking photograph, and it's just like, by the way, the shadow's going over here, and there's that tree, and then there's that letterhead on that thing, there's somewhere in Buenos Aires, right? Like, you know, like, was able to use all these contextual details of a room, their knowledge of all the shit about life over there, and fucking, you know, be like, okay, I figured out where he's most likely to be. I think I know exactly which room this is and what fucking country, what city block, what floor, right? And they had to have a fucking enormous fucking nerd put all this fucking data together staring at one picture for like a month or 2 months, or God, guys working on that fucking one picture for fucking forever. And that's kind of like all the propaganda they give you with Law and Order and fucking true crime, like anything where they got like, okay, here's the thorough investigation, here's the $10 billion fucking science lab. They don't use that shit unless somebody pays to have that shit used, right? Or it's within the fucking, or if it's within a particular preference of like a goddamn attorney general or something like that, you know, to clear the resources for that level of investigation, for that level of crime in general, right? So only some obsessive fucking crackhead with just enough crack money for bus fare is gonna fucking hunt you down based on looking at, oh, we can tell what fucking property is. I know that architecture right back there. Yeah, that's 52155 Dick Mann Boulevard. Yep, that's where he works. We're gonna bomb that. Nobody fucking thinks like that. Oh my God. All right, I gotta go quit my job. I'll catch you guys later.